Hi, everyone. I'm Liliana Soto, investigative reporter for ABC15. Welcome to ABC15's town hall about the importance of the Latino vote in Arizona. And there's so much to talk about with Arizona being a battleground state. So let's start our discussion by introducing our experts. We have Alex Juarez, Communications Director for AARP. And we also have Montserrat Arredondo, Executive Director of One Arizona, and Luis Avila, Director of Aquí Se Vota. Thank you all for being here, especially for wanting to talk about such an important topic, the power of the Latino vote. And let's start with the biggest concern for a lot of people really in our community. How do we vote safely during this pandemic, and what options do we have? And I would like to start with you on this, Alex.
Thank you so much, Lily, for hosting this important teletown hall. And I think ARP, and along with everyone else, has had to adapt to the reality of this 2020 election year. Very different year. We're working hard to make sure that voters can safely and that they can vote safely and know their voting options. That's really important. Whether you vote by mail or in person, ARP wants to make sure that you do it safely during a pandemic. So with that, there's several ways that you can vote safely in the elections. With ballots by mail being available for all registered voters, Arizona makes it easy to safely vote from home during the coronavirus pandemic. Officials here in the state are encouraging Arizonans to cast their votes by mail. But remember, the ballots must be requested by Friday, October 23rd. Also, early voting opens on October 7th to help voters avoid the election day lines. And also a reminder, some polling places may have changed or closed or moved. So make sure that you check with your county recorder. Here in Maricopa County, they have expanded early voting sites to help ease the election day crowds. So make sure you check on that. And you can also choose to drop off your ballot on November 3rd and not have to wait in line. You can just go straight to the front and then drop it off there. And of course, going in person and voting in person on November 3rd. Whatever you choose, please be safe and know that there are mechanisms in place in the state that help you track your ballot if you decide to send it in by mail.
Thank you, Alex. And just by reading some of the comments that I'm already seeing here on our Facebook Live, there's a lot of confusion, when it comes with voting by mail. And I know especially for our abuelitos, even our parents, they prefer going in person. So I think this question will be directed to you, Luis. How do we make sure our community is well informed about their options in both English and Spanish?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you to ABC for making this space available for us to talk about this important election this year. I want to start by saying that, we are lucky in Arizona that we have a system that I think is super comprehensive when it comes to voting. I mean, we still have places to make improvements, but I really want to highlight the fact that there are many ways that we can vote, just as Alex was sharing. What we keep hearing from people is that there's a little bit of discomfort or doubt about voting by mail. And I want to remind people that we've been doing it since the 90s, right? We've been having and running successful elections since the 90s in Arizona, with both political parties in charge of the elections and doing a great job on ensuring that our vote is counted and that our vote is also safe and easy. But this year in particular, we also have other options. I mean, over 70% of, close to 80%, close to 8 out of 10 Arizonans already vote by mail. So that should give us peace of mind of the fact that so many of us are already doing it by mail. But if you don't feel, that like voting by mail is something that you'd like to do this year, we also have a lot of early voting locations, which is also something that has been expanding in our state in the last few years. So just in Maricopa County, I know there's over 100 voting locations that you can just go in and vote early, fill out your ballot, and do it right there. You don't have to wait for election day. But in the case that you want to do it, you want to vote on election day, it is very important for us to plan how we're going to vote. So research shows that when you make a plan to vote, your likelihood of voting actually increases. And it's asking very simple questions. When am I going to vote, right? Am I going to vote early? Am I going to vote on election day? Am I going to do it in the morning or at night? Am I going to do it before or after work? Am I going to go there by car, by light rail? Am I going to get a ride? And who's going to go with me? Just by thinking about those things in your head and making that plan to vote increases your chances of voting. So hopefully everybody's making their plan right now.
Exactly. And I know there's also mailboxes, right, where you can go and drop it in those mailboxes that is safe.
Absolutely. So there are drop-off boxes everywhere in the state. Every county has them available. We just saw Governor Doug Ducey voting that way in the last elections in the primary. He dropped off his ballot on the drop box. And that's another way to also have your ballot with time, study it, and then drop it off as well.
Thank you. And so, we see that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So Montserrat or Montse, you guys do a lot of outreach in the community. And so I know right now, it's really hard to be out there knocking on doors, with the pandemic. So what are some of the biggest challenges you guys as an organization have faced when it comes to informing the community about all of this?
Yeah, definitely. Again, thank you all for having me. And at our coalition at One Arizona, our organizations often go out into the community, go out to those parking spots, the universities, and meet people where they're at to get them registered to vote. And this year we weren't able to do that. And we focused our efforts on phone banking, text banking, and more have started to incorporate some in-person events, because when registering online, you do need a ID to do so, because it's connected to the DMV. So we started to do some drive-through events. It looks a lot like a COVID testing system, but it's a way to keep our folks safe and you safe as well, so that you can register. And Monday is actually the last day to register to vote. So we are planning this weekend to connect back with folks that told us that they didn't have an ID and show up at their house and try to get them registered.
Thank you, Monse. And we're going to go to one of our viewers' questions. And so Andrea Young is asking, can we vote online? And I would like for you, Monse, to answer that question, because right now we're doing everything online, right?
Yeah.
So we actually do this going to vote online.
Yeah, you actually cannot vote online, but I will say to you, Andrea, that you almost can. So if you get your ballot early enough, I like to get it early because I like to look through it, who's on it, Google everybody, look up some interviews that maybe they've done, just really do my homework so I don't feel the pressure of election day at the polling place, like I better finish it because there's other people waiting. When you get that ballot early, it's almost like you're voting online because you have that ability to do your research, help other folks ask questions, and then either walk it in or mail it back.
And you can find everything online now. Just Google it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's amazing the things that you can find. And so, now that we're talking, about being online, it's just because of the pandemic. So we know also that this pandemic has affected our Latino community at so many levels. We have seen that there's no access to healthcare or to basic information about coronavirus in Spanish. And so I guess my question would be, are candidates really addressing all the issues that matter to us Latinos? And I would like to have each of you answering this question. What are some of the issues candidates must talk about in order to win the Latino vote? And I would like to start with you, Alex.
Yeah, Lilia, unfortunately, the Latino community and the African-American community have been affected disproportionately in the pandemic. Now, I want to point out, I want to make it very clear that AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that we're dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live and as they age. Want to make it very clear that we don't endorse candidates and that we don't give money to their campaigns either. We have a 34-year proud history of providing information about voting and the candidate's position so AARP members and voters can make their own informed decisions. So for the 2020 election, we launched Protect Voters 50 Plus. That's our effort to help Americans cast their votes safely and know all their voting options. And we believe that anyone running for office needs to protect the health and the financial security of voters 50 plus, especially during this pandemic. So to win, candidates must talk about the issues that matter to the 50 plus voters. And that includes the Hispanic 50 plus voters as well. So like voting safely from home is very important, preventing cuts to Social Security and Medicare, and lowering prescription drug prices. There's a lot of concerns out there with the payroll tax. What will happen to Social Security if indeed President Trump decides to basically get rid of the payroll tax? So again, there's a lot of concerns out there. We want to make sure that people are educated and make an informed decision.
And we have definitely seen, I think for us Latinos, we all have a cousin, the grandma, someone in the family, the friend that goes to Mexico, to buy prescriptions. And so we are seeing those issues. And I guess, something else that we're seeing is that there's not a lot of information in English and Spanish. And we know the reality is that we have, older generations of Latinos who didn't learn the language, or didn't have time to learn it because they have to work, 24/7 sometimes. And so I was reading this study by AARP where they say among the oldest Hispanics, 43% are proficient English speakers and 22% do not speak English at all. And I would like this question for you, Luis, because I know you guys are doing a lot of work in both languages. So, with the connection that you guys have with the Spanish speakers, what are some of the issues that matter the most to them?
Like definitely right now, Lily, the number one issue that people are concerned about is healthcare. I mean, we keep hearing a lot of fear of losing healthcare. Millions of Latinos right now are covered by Medicaid, and they are concerned of losing this possibility, right? As we know, being priced out of healthcare or not having enough and being underinsured, it's a very common thing in the Latino community. And I think that is a concern that we're hearing a lot about. Also, lately, we've heard a lot about the opening of schools. Particularly Latinas are really concerned about not just the education system as a whole and the quality of education here in Arizona in particular, knowing that Latinos and Latino children are one of the very few populations in schools that are not actually catching up academically like their white peers, right? And if we look at the demographics, the future of this state really relies on the success of Latino students. So Latinas know that, and they're concerned about just the fact that we are not really investing in ensuring that our schools are opening safely, that our schools are able to take care of these children who they might not be symptomatic when it comes to COVID, but that have parents at home that are working sometimes 2 or 3 jobs in order for them to put food at the table. And they're risking their lives by serving food, by working in the service industry, by working out there sometimes without the proper protection. So healthcare and education and the intersection of those two, it's something that we're hearing a lot about.
And we cannot expect our voices to be heard, obviously, if we don't vote, right? It's really important. That's basically our voice. And to do that, we must register to vote, right? We can't just show up and expect, to vote without registering. So, Montse, what are some of the important dates, I guess, to remember, like the when and how do we register?
Yeah. So again, the last day to register to vote in the state of Arizona is October 5th, which is Monday. So Monday, midnight, online, you are able to register to vote. You can also go during the day to the county recorder's office in your area to register in person if you need to. But that is the last day. You cannot show up at the polls on election day to vote in Arizona. You must do it beforehand. With all the technology and all of this online, we're not there yet where we can show up as citizens, as residents of these communities to vote on the same day. But we are working on it. That is the dream to get to. So if you're unsure right now who your candidate is, what's on the ballot, make sure to register so that you can vote on election day. You're able to, that if you change your mind and say like, all right, you know what, I am going to go, they will have your name. They'll be ready to help you cast your vote on election day. The other important dates to know is that from October 7th to October 30th, there is going to be early voting. So that means you can go to an early vote center. You can go to a drop-off location. You can mail your ballot back during that time. And locations are going to be all over the valley and every county in the state. And you will be able to get a ballot there if you don't have a ballot early. But I suggest that folks not only register, but also sign up to get a ballot in the mail. And you can do that in the same registration link.
And talking about links, a friend last night was telling me, I thought was really interesting. He said, Lily, it's just there's a lot of information out there. How do we know, who to trust? I obviously mentioned ABC15, but, it's important for us to know where can we find that reliable information. So guys, I guess I'll start with you, Alex. Where do we find, reliable resources for voting information?
You know what, Lily, I'm going to make it very simple. And I know that there's a lot of great sites out there. And like the county recorder has great information. The Secretary of State has great information. So throughout the state, there's a lot of websites. But if you choose to look at the AARP information that we have a couple pages that are very simple to follow. It's got a lot of great links on it. It's aarp.org/azvotes in English, or in Spanish, aarp.org/azvota, VOTA. So very simple.
Thank you. I would like to go now with you, Luis, if you want to elaborate more on that question.
Yes, of course. Well, I would say that we are a campaign that very intentionally and purposefully, we actually started our whole campaign in Spanish. So usually campaigns and communications are created in English and then translated into Spanish. And there's something lost in translation sometimes when that happens. So we did something different. We decided that we were going to do all our information in Spanish and then offer also that information in English. So we invite people to go to our website. There's an option, of course, in English there too. But it's aquisevota.com. It's aquisevota.com, and you can find everything from registering to vote. There are also videos that we made with a very well-known Spanish language anchor here. They're like 4-minute videos that explain how to register to vote, how to register others, how to talk to your family about voting. And you can find all of that information on aquisevota.com. We also have a really exciting Instagram page and Facebook page where we share information and graphics all the time with dates and proper information, so you can also share it on your social media. And just this morning, we were told that over 30 million people have seen our content on Instagram. So we're really excited that people are sharing information and looking at our stuff and also getting informed in their own language, in English or in Spanish as they prefer. But I also would say that what Alex said, actually every county has really good information right now. The Secretary of State page has really good information also in both English and Spanish. So I don't think right now the issue is that there's no information available. It's as you were saying, Lily, who to trust. And I hope that you can trust One Arizona AARP and Aquí Se Vota when you're finding information as well.
Thank you. Yeah, Montserrat, any other suggestions that you might have?
Yeah, I mean, I will commend all of the social media groups, the apps. I see it even on Yelp when I'm looking for a restaurant. Like, have you registered to vote yet? So everybody's talking about it. We know the deadline's coming up. And if you are right now on ABC 15, they have a place to register to vote. So I understand there's a lot out there. I think that first step, though, you can really trust any place that's asking you to vote. It's the after, like where you're going to get information about the ballot. And that kind of goes into like, who do you communicate with well? Who do you trust already? What pages are you already following? And again, I can't say this enough because it works the best for me. And I see it especially with young communities that we want to get that beforehand, know what's on there, feel like we're prepared, not just for the top of the ticket, but the whole ballot. And Aquí Se Vota is a great location to find some more information. One Arizona also has more information. And AARP has been doing this for a long time on getting folks the information they need to know what's on the ballot. But that very first step, Facebook, Instagram, Yelp, every single app that I know about is talking about getting registered to vote. And that step you have to take that first step.
The first step, exactly. And also you guys can go to abc15.com/vote and also aarp.org/azvotes as well. And we're gonna go to one of our viewers' questions, and that's Bonnie. And so Bonnie's saying, she's like, they keep telling me that I haven't registered to vote yet, and I did that when I got my new license in February. So who wants to answer to Bonnie? Where can she go? I mean, I know there's a lot of confusion with that too.
Yeah, there's a bit of confusion, especially when you update your driver's license, or maybe you just became a citizen this year, so your information may not, even though it's online and you register to vote through the DMV system, they still sometimes are talking to each other as well. Even online relationships need constant work. So I would say it depends what county you're in, but if you are in Maricopa County, they make it very easy for you to check your voter registration status. And it doesn't hurt to re-register. So even though you know that you did it in February, it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't affect your registration if you refill out the form. So that's what I would suggest to you, Bonnie, to just re-register in any of these sites to ensure that you are registered and that you're going to get that ballot.
Yeah. And I'd like to mention that the Secretary of State has a website where they can check the registration status of it. You can check and see if you're on the permanent early voting list, a PEVL. It'll say on the registration. So it's very simple. Just go to their site. We have a link on our page that you can just go to the Secretary of State and check and see the status of it.
Yeah.
Great information, you guys. And something also that, it's been in my mind this week. I read this report from the Dallas Morning News earlier where they were saying how a study found out that Latinos don't vote because no one approaches them, and no one approaches them because they don't vote. And so how do we change this narrative? We know that that's going on out there. Like, oh, Latinos don't vote. They don't show up to the polls. So how do we change this narrative? Alex, I would like to start with you.
Lily, for so many years, we have heard the Hispanic community is the sleeping giant when it comes to deciding the critical voting. It is time our Hispanic community takes action. We need to be more engaged in the political decision-making of the country. Again, we're not telling you who to vote for. We simply want you to exercise your civic duty and your right to do an informed decision. Remember that your vote is your voice. So candidates need to pay attention to the 50+ voters. They need to pay attention to the Hispanic community. There's so many groups that they really need to be listening to it. This election is not given to any president. It's going to be very tight. It's going to be very close. And the candidates really need to pay attention to what the voters are saying out there.
Exactly. Luis, would you like to add anything on this?
Yeah, Lily, I also want to say that I think that narrative is something that we also have to shake, because to be honest, in the last 10 years, the fact that One Arizona has registered over 500,000 voters, the fact that people are in a waiting list to become citizens as soon as they can, the fact that we in 2016 and 2018 saw historic number in turnout on Latino voters. We went from 9% of the voter population to 16, 17% of the voter population, and we're getting closer to 20%. We actually see that Latinos are very interested in voting. They are participating, but we can also not hide the fact that the voting process is cumbersome sometimes. And it's like when someone recommends you a restaurant, right? Like everybody says it's a very good restaurant, very good food. And if you show up to the restaurant and the service is bad, you don't go back to that restaurant. So if the system of voting, it's not easy and it's not something that people really feel empowered by, it's harder for them to come back. So we have to do better, not only the people who are in charge of our elections, but we as a community to say, hey, no, we are actually voting in historic numbers, and the numbers are showing it. So I'm really proud of the gains that we made as a community because of the efforts of organizations like the ones in this call as well.
Yeah, I personally have seen a lot of interest just with my family. A lot of new U.S. citizens too. So, Montse, anything you would like to say on that topic?
Yeah, I guess I would just add that too often Latinos are pinned into one issue or are considered a one-issue community, and candidates, especially top-of-the-ticket candidates, will start and only talk about immigration, right? And folks are saying, we want to hear more. We're interested in healthcare, education. What are you going to do for me in my life today? And that's really a challenge to candidates in the way that they're campaigning, talking about the issue, are pinned into one. And that folks, like every other community, care about their kids, their education, their healthcare around COVID right now. That folks are sharing information, and that I think goes back to the candidate and the way that campaigns are started and grown. And we at One Arizona with Aquí Se Vota are trying to challenge that and change things up.
Thank you, Monte. And I'll stay with you for our viewer question. So Angela Gordillo is saying, I know of people, including my son, who are suddenly showing not registered. So where can they go to find out what's going on with that situation?
Yeah, I shared here in the chat. It's called my.arizona.vote. That is the official Secretary of State Katie Hobbs page to check your registration, request a ballot, and she's collected all the county's information so that you can do so in other smaller counties as well. There are situations where folks might be purged, or if they haven't participated in a while, or if they received a postcard and didn't return it, they might have become dormant, what they call, which is that you're still on the list, but you're not necessarily on top of the list anymore. And that's another reason to just keep registering. You can go to my.arizona.vote, but you can also just re-register again with the AARP page or ABC15. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't affect your status at all. And it just gives you peace of mind that you are registered in the community that you are planning to vote in. And I will say to young people, if this is a person that is, well, folks aren't at the university right now, but if you were, you could be registered at home and receive your ballot at the place that you're living. So that's important to know too. There's a line to where your resident address and then your mailing address, which can be different.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I made sure I went again and I registered again because I'm on the early ballot, like the permanent early ballot. And I was like, no, I'm just going to make sure because I want to make sure that I get my ballot. And I got an email that it's coming. So that was great. So great information there. And I guess now, finally, because we still have a lot of time, but Alex, I know AARP is advocating a lot for the 50 plus, community. So moving forward, what would AARP fight for to protect the right to vote of the community you guys serve?
Well, Lily, I can guarantee you and assure you that AARP will continue to fight for our more than 38 million members and non-members too, to make sure that these voters 50 plus can make their voices heard. Issues like Social Security, Medicare, prescription drug pricing will continue to be in the forefront of 50 plus Americans. So AARP will continue to advocate for them.
Thank you so much. And with you, Luis, what's the mission from now on to November for Aquí Se Vota?
Well, the most important thing right now, Lily, is that from now to October 5th, that people know that they have a chance to register to vote. All these issues that we're seeing on the comments are, I think, very, very important. One phrase that I keep telling folks in our network is that if our vote didn't matter, why is it so hard to do it, right? If our vote didn't really matter, why is it so difficult for us to actually cast it, for us to actually know that we are registered to vote? So, Angela, I really appreciate the fact that you are asking about your son, that the people who are commenting and asking questions about registration, we should all make sure that we're registered from now to October 5th, and that's going to be our focus. We're doing everything from digital ads to graphics to events. We're doing pachangas with like music and DJs. But also, after October 5th, we're going to have to remind people that they have many options when voting. We want to model voting in person early. So some of us are going to go voting in person so they can see, people can see how easy it is. We're also going to encourage people to send their ballots early so that they can make it on time and that they can have time to do it in family. One thing we're encouraging people is to sit down as a family, while they're having dinner and fill out their ballots together and have a conversation about the issues and ask questions of each other and research together. Because we in the Latino community are very rooted in family. That's one of the most important values for our culture. So ensuring that we're using that as an asset, as a way for us to connect with each other is going to be very important. So we're going to be creating spaces like that. And finally, by election day, we're going to have a lot of voter protection information too. We are seeing people in other states that are being intimidated when they're going to be showing up to vote. They're going to make sure that we're going to be reporting cases of intimidation, and we're going to be offering information in both English and Spanish to our community. And then we're going to say no re-intimidation of voters. We're going to be protecting voters' rights because that is what it is. It's a right for us to exercise. So that's going to be our focus.
Yeah, it's an amazing right that we have for sure. Monse, and right now, I know, like I was telling you, it's difficult to go out there to neighborhoods and knock on doors, but what's the strategy for One Arizona?
Yeah, again, we are making sure to get folks registered online through phone banking, text banking. We are putting ads out there in the different social media platforms so that folks can click on those and we can follow up with them. And then we're asking folks not only to get registered themselves, but ensure that their family is also registered. Again, a lot of folks are working from home. Students are going to school from home. I've heard of countless people that are back in Yuma County that were originally at ASU this year, but are back home with their parents in San Luis or Yuma. And it's a big opportunity. There's more folks in family together right now than ever before. So if you're listening to this and you're already registered, we ask that you make sure that the rest of the folks in your family are also registered. And that's what we're doing when we're calling folks and we're texting folks. But we're starting to go and knock on people's doors too. So that means that we're getting lists of registered voters and going to their doors and talking to them about early voting, about getting their ballot, mailing it in, ensuring that they have the information that they need to vote in the way that they feel is the safest and securest for them. And somebody asked about absentee ballots. In Arizona, you can register to vote and get your ballot in the mail. You don't have to have an excuse or a reason to vote by mail. Arizona allows everybody that signs up to vote by mail to do so. So all you have to do is either re-register with any of these sites that we've been talking about through AARP, ABC, or if you just want to sign up to get the ballot, you already are registered, you go to my.arizona.vote.
Yeah, really important to like highlight again, the website for us, it's abc15.com/vote. And so this is sort of a question that I have from what I've seen. A lot of you, I know, One Arizona, you guys have been doing a lot of outreach to get people registered to vote. So how are we doing as far as numbers? I know Aquite Vota had like a deadline for a certain number that you guys want to reach. How are we doing on that, Luis?
Well, we're really excited because, as of last week, we are close to 900 people who have signed up for volunteering to get their families to get involved. So the response of people wanting to get involved has been really amazing. And we're really, really proud of the fact that even with some more weeks to do work, we're close to meeting our goal of getting 1,000 people involved to volunteer. We're having these events every day with dozens of people showing up every day to not only learn more about how to get involved, but even pitching ideas to us. For example, this Saturday, we're going to have a postcard writing party where people are going to be meeting at Indian Steel Park at 10 a.m. and writing postcards and sending them to voters who have probably never voted before to get information and get excited and get motivated to vote as well. So, what we said that we were going to do, a campaign to get people motivated and use our family networks to talk to others, it's working. And that's really exciting. And one thing we didn't know that was going to happen, it was that this content creation of Spanish digitally, these things that we were going to produce in our own language to post on social media, we're going to be so successful. And that's something that we didn't account for when we were planning this campaign. And we're really proud of the fact that people are really wanting to share information with each other as well.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of political ads too in both languages, English and Spanish, from all candidates. There's one question from Miguel Guillen, and he says, could I vote if I have a DUI felony? And I think Alex or Monse, whoever wants to jump on that question.
Go ahead, Monse.
Yeah, you actually cannot vote if you have a felony in the state of Arizona. I encourage you, Miguel, though, to double check that. Partners like ACLU, Puente, Arizona are helping folks to check if they, if you're a first-time felon, there are ways to restore your rights a little quicker in the state of Arizona. But as of today, that is not a possibility. You are able to register other people to vote, though. There is no limitations on folks that are doing voter registration drives. So you are still able to encourage your family and the folks around you to exercise their right to vote.
Yeah, there are many ways to get involved. And I know also they were looking to get poll workers, right?
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
And Alex, I have a bunch of pages that I received from AARP with this amazing study that you guys did on the issues that matter the most to Latinos. Is there anything that we're missing that you would like to emphasize?
I think the most important here, Lily, is to make sure that we've heard from our members in this poll. We know what they're telling us here, and candidates really to win this election, they really have to focus again in the issues that matter most to these voters, including how to vote safely, either whether it's from home or in person, and to focus on the issues that matter most to them, including the Social Security, the Medicare, prescription drug pricing. Those are the key issues that our voters want really the candidates to focus in. Nothing really overwhelming in the study that we didn't know already. But again, I think the voters are paying attention to what the candidates are saying, who they're visiting, who they're talking to. So again, this is a flip. The coin, basically, it's a flip coin. Who's going to win this election depends on how these candidates approach the different segments, including the Hispanic community.
And are we really seeing, because I know there were different reports on different candidates about whether or not they're paying attention to the issues that matter the most to Latinos. And so, Luis, since you did out your head, I got to you. What is something that maybe candidates are not doing, and maybe they need to do more to, pay attention to our community?
One of the issues that concerns me the most, Lily, is that in reality, when we talk about the Latino community, we have really serious issues on wealth, right? Wealth acquisition and keeping wealth in our families. We know that is one of the issues that creates the most inequities. So families that have a house that they have been able to purchase, for example, it's an asset that they can leverage for when they retire, or that they can leverage for when their children go to college. And Latino home ownership is way below average when it comes to America, to the rest of the United States. So that is an issue I think that we should be thinking and asking about. Not only the issue of healthcare as a standalone or education as a standalone, but thinking about wealth acquisition and wealth and keeping wealth in our families for the longer term, which is why I think the work of organizations like AARP is so important. When the retirement age, for example, is shortened, and we have to go to retirement at an earlier age, that means that sometimes we're going to have to supplement our retirement with work. And we know that a lot of people in the Latino community, for example, do not have 401k, so do not have pensions, and do not have that kind of backing, especially Latinas, when just a fraction of the dollar Latinas are actually getting at their jobs, it's really hard for us to make it and to get by. So it is really important for us to think about this election of not only as an opportunity for us to elect who's the next president, but really, what is the future we really want for us in this country? What is the future we want for our children? What is the future we want for our planet? What is the future that we are going to live as a Latinos? Because as we continue to grow as a population, we're going to have to actually take care of ourselves, not because it's nice to do, but because it's the most strategic thing to do for this country. If Latinos do well, the rest of the country do well too.
And how important, you guys, is, because we're talking about the power of the Latino vote. Why is so important the Latino vote now more than ever, I guess?
Well, I think go ahead, Luis.
No, I was going to say, Montse does this work a lot, so I wonder what she was thinking about the Latino vote.
Yeah. In Arizona, we make up about 18% of the electorate, and about 73% of Latinos are registered to vote, that are eligible to vote. So everyone, all of us, we have a tío, a cousin, a primo that is still not registered, because 73 is not 100. And so we are growing, and those are the numbers that folks aren't talking about, that we make, like Luis mentioned earlier, almost 20% of the electorate in the state of Arizona. So we are a force to be reckoned with. We are growing, we're turning 18. And again, we are talking about things beyond immigration. We are in mixed status families, and we care about our economic mobility, our health, and our education. So, and those are things that I think are going to help this habit of voting continue, and this ability of us to not make this just a presidential election voting styles, but every single year and every election. And that seats on school boards, for example, aren't going with not any candidate showing up to try to be a school board member, but that all seats are getting picked up, and that folks are not only just voting, but are also choosing to run for office in their communities.
Yeah, definitely. I think there is some misunderstanding that Latinos only care or worry about immigration. But in reality, I interviewed someone the other day. She's a seventh generation Mexican American. So we have, we come in different sizes, shapes, with different backgrounds. And we care about everything that everybody else care, right? So I think for you, Alex, what maybe for as a final note, what would be your advice to the community when it comes to the importance of registering to vote, and that is not only a presidential race. We have the Senate, we have positions. Anything you would like to add on that?
Well, just wanted to point out that Arizona is a battleground state. Battleground meaning that this state could really represent a big difference in the election, whether it's presidential or the Senate. See what happens in there. So I do encourage our Latino community to, number one, get educated on the facts and what's going on in the political world. Get informed before you make a decision, you vote. Obviously, before that, you've got to register. Before you do your voting. But we do encourage people to register and to make their voices heard. That is the most important thing that we can do as a community. This is enough of saying that I complain because this is not happening. I don't get this in my community. Well, let's take action. Let's take action by registering, by voting. I think the sleeping giant has a big opportunity in this election to make a difference in the election, both on presidential and also on the Senate and the local campaigns as well. So again, we encourage everybody to participate and make your voice heard.
And I cannot highlight enough the importance of registering to vote. And I would like to end with Luis, and I'm going to put Luis on the spot because he's the one that's doing everything in English and Spanish. To remind us all about the important days, this election in both English and Spanish. You have a great graphic that I would like to share with all of our viewers. And if you can talk to us about those dates.
Claro, Lily. Well, to start with, the important day that's coming up is October 5th. Remember that October 5th is the deadline to register to vote, and that is all the way to midnight. So, para que se registren a las familias, como estaba diciendo Montse, tenemos tíos, abuelos, primos, amigos que podemos registrar ahorita. Así que pónganse las pilas. Pueden ir aquí Se Vota, a One Arizona, a ABC15, a AARP, para que puedan registrarse. But also, on October 7th, we have the opportunity for people to start voting early, right? As Montse was sharing, the voting locations are being opened, but also the ballots are going to be dropping, and they are really important dates for us to know. El día 23 de octubre es el último día para pedir la boleta, that you can request a ballot, right, to vote early, and that is with your county. But, we encourage you to do it way before that because, it might be one of the biggest challenges for you to get the ballot and then send it back. Así que pídanlo lo antes posible porque si no, se nos va a ir la oportunidad. El 27 de octubre is the last day to send your ballot. And that's what we are encouraging people to do. You're probably going to see different dates flying around. Alguna persona va a decir que el 25, otra que el 26. The 27th is where we're encouraging everybody to send their ballot so that we can make it on time, so that it can make it to the location. And if you don't send it, you can drop it off in person. Pueden ir en persona con su boleta a entregarla, pero es siempre mejor mandarla con tiempo. Y por último, el día más importante este año, el día de la elección general. That is Election Day. And that is going to be a day when you have the right to take off from work to go vote. Imagínense qué padre poder decir, me voy a tomar un par de horas para ir a votar y luego regreso al trabajo. Así que pueden tomarse un longer lunch break on November 3rd and go vote. And that's it.
I love this Spanglish information that we just got. And so our time is almost up, you guys. But like good Latinos, we can stay here and talk forever and hours. I'm probably going to reach out to you personally to continue with all of my questions. But thank you all so much. This was a really important conversation to have. Hopefully we get to have more coming up. And so I would like to thank all of you, for your time and for providing us that crucial information and to help our Latino community, to be informed. And well, thank you everyone who tuned in. And don't forget to visit abc15.com/vote. And then buenas tardes, since we're speaking in English and Spanish. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you all later.
Thank you.